Today we are starting with a drug acting on cholinergic system. So before going to this cholinergics, basically we just need to uh, aware about the basic things regarding the nervous system. As you, I think I already discussed about it in the classroom session. Just I want to look forward related to the this autonomic nervous system, which is related to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system belongs to the uh, autonomic nervous system, and this is one of the parameter of a peripheral nervous system. See, central nervous system is classified into the two types. Nervous system is classified into two types: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Then peripheral nervous system is classified into the two types on the basis of efferent and afferent organs. Actually, efferent means what? Those organs which are related to the motor actions, and afferent means what? Those are related to the sensory actions. So what do you mean by this motor action, actions? So motor means what? From organ to brain, so where it process, and again from brain to organ, that is nothing but a sensory. So generally these motor nerves are or motor responses are classified into the autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. Actually, autonomic nervous system is the name indicate it is autonomous, means whatever the things are generally whatever the responses of this autonomic nervous system are involuntary, that is not in our control. But somatic nervous system, the role is that its role is a voluntary control, means whenever if you want to do any actions and that is in your hand, then you can call it as a somatic response. But for example, our heart is pumping, then breathing, then kidney functions, so GIT functions, these are all are involuntary functions. Means if you want to decide that I want to break my I want to give a break to my GIT for near about 3 to 4 hours, it is not in your hand. So that is called as a involuntary actions, and that is under autonomic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system is classified into the three types, actually three types. Enteric type is a very bigger part, and that is related to actions of uh, um, brains, and that's why we are not related to this and we are keeping it aside. So parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, they are related to our topic, that is a parasympathetic and sympathetic, they are nearly similar, but its actions are generally uh, depending upon the neurotransmitter. These are which are released by these parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So in the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, whatever the neurotransmitter releases, they are the actions of these are related to generally on the basis of that they are classified. And we are now just moving to the parasympathetic uh, nervous system, which is nothing but a cholinergic system. And sympathetic we already discussed in the classroom sessions. Parasympathetic is also called as a cholinergic. Sympathetic is also called as a adrenergic. So whatever the adrenergic drugs are there, they are belongs to the actions of they blocks or they mimic the actions of a sympathetic nervous system. And whatever the cholinergic actions are there, they are related to the parasympathetic responses. Means if you want to block the actions of a parasympathetic nervous system or sympathetic or mimic the actions of a parasympathetic nerve responses, then you can generally act by using a cholinergic system. So now we are moving forward. uh, so parasympathetic and sympathetic having nearly whatever the responses are there, you can see that here there is a parasympathetic nervous system which generally belongs to the 1 minute. Parasympathetic nervous system belongs to, it is also called as a, see, those are the cranial, these are the cranial nerves, the section which is called as a cranial nerve section, and simultaneously this is a sacral region of a spinal cord. This is our central nervous system related organ, that is nothing but a brain and spinal cord. So brain and spinal cord, this is a stem, brain stem, and this is spinal cord. So in the spinal cord there are various nerves, that is a cranial nerves, cranial nerve, then thoracic nerves, then lumbar nerves, then nerve region, then sacral nerve region. So these are related to the various actions, means the actions of this parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system are generally belongs to this regions. So whatever the ganglions generally passes from these sides, they shows the actions of this parasympathetic and sympathetic. So I specially added this image which is belongs to the parasympathetic as well as a sympathetic nervous system, so that you can classify the actions of a parasympathetic as well as a sympathetic nervous system. See, parasympathetic nervous system is generally they having a nerves which are generally passes from the this cranial side as well as the sacral side, and that's why it is also called as a cranico-sacral nervous system, or cranico-sacral nervous system. And sympathetic nervous system, they belongs to the generally T2 thoracic lumbar vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, as well as from this L2 lumbar vertebrae. So that's why it is also called as a thoracico-lumbar nervous system, because whatever the ganglions or neurons passes from this side, they shows the sympathetic actions. So here you can again see that the see, every type of a nervous system they having two types of a ganglia. Means it contains two parts. One is, first is a preganglionic region, and second is a postganglionic region. In the somatic nervous system, there is only a preganglionic region, and the nerve is directly enter into the effective organ. But in the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, this the neurons are classified into the two generally parts, as a preganglionic as well as a postganglionic nervous system. Sorry, neurons. So preganglion, here you can see that this is a uh, preganglionic region in the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system, that is a longer, and see here, the preganglionic region is a greater and postganglionic region is a shorter. But in sympathetic nervous system, preganglionic region is a shorter and postganglionic region is a longer. So that's why the specific actions are generally shown by the parasympathetic nervous system rather than the sympathetic nervous system. So most of the drugs belongs to the near about 60 to 70% drugs which are acting on a different means if there is a heart is there, or lungs are there, stomach is there, so they are generally acting on a parasympathetic rather than sympathetic nervous system. But that is depending upon the type of action, what type of action you want. So see, sacral region, what is that? See, here you can see that if you the parasympathetic nervous system, they having a stimulatory action on a saliva, here inhibitory action on a saliva. Then here there is a contraction of a pupil, here there is a dilation of a pupil. Then constriction of a bronchi in the parasympathetic, here dilation of a bronchi in the sympathetic. Then stimulation of a peristaltic and peristaltic movement of a GIT, and therefore there is a greater secretions of a gastric juices. Here there is a inhibition of a peristalsis, and therefore there is a inhibition of a secretions. So again in the liver, there is stimulation causes and release of a bile. Here there is a conversion of a glycogen to glucose is there. So they are having a different action. So here again the bigger action is related to this parasympathetic nervous system that contract the bladder. Here it inhibit the bladder contraction. So these are the some actions of a parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So on the basis of this, you can uh, determine which type of actions are generally shown by this uh, compounds. Then see, this is the sympathetic nervous system. So here, so that is not our part. We already discussed about it. Then cholinergic nervous system. See, this is the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. This is the peripheral nervous system. Uh, then sympathetic nervous system is also called as a fight and flight responses. They shows the fight and flight response. Parasympathetic nervous system shows rest and digest response. Means in this sympathetic nervous system, they are generally related to the some actions, like either you can fight or flight. Means either you can fight or flight from the particular side. For example, if you seen lion in front of you, at that time either you can fight or flight. So this is the response which is given by the sympathetic nervous system. And in the parasympathetic nervous system, see here the image can explain. Either you can means during this time you can increase the energy of your system so that you can utilize it for the uh, internal organ process of internal organs. So that is called as a rest, and means you are increasing the energy. Here you can utilizing the energy in the sympathetic nervous system. In the parasympathetic you can increasing your energy. So this is related to the some important criteria related to the uh, release of some neurotransmitter uh, in the peripheral nervous system. See, in the somatic nervous system, the acetylcholine is released at a particular target site. There is no any type of a sorry, postganglionic region. Here only one neuron is there that is directly enter into the effector organ, that is nothing but a skeletal muscle. And in the sympathetic nervous system, you can see that there is a noradrenaline, adrenaline is released in the postganglionic region, and in the preganglionic region there is a compulsory acetylcholine is there. In all type of neurons in the preganglionic region, acetylcholine is released, and in the postganglionic region, whatever the neurotransmitter releases, on the basis of that the system is classified. Means in the parasympathetic nervous system, your acetylcholine is released. Means in the preganglionic as well as in the postganglionic region, acetylcholine is released. And in the sympathetic nervous system, at the preganglionic as well as the postganglionic region, there is in the preganglionic region there is a acetylcholine is released, and in the postganglionic region there is adrenaline or noradrenaline is released. So these are autonomic responses in involuntary actions. So here you can see that how the nerve transmission occurs. So generally it is a common parameter. I think you're already aware about it. See, the nerve impulses happens, then there is a release of a neurotransmitter from the vesicles that will attaches to the particular uh, postsynaptic receptors, and the signal passes. So this is a basic response generally shown by the means it is called as a neuro conduction. So then neurotransmitter which is generally utilized by the body in the parasympathetic nervous system, that is an acetylcholine, and the structure is like this. The structure contains this is a acetyl group, and this is a what is this? This is a quaternary ammonium group, and this is a ethylene bridge. Okay, so acetyl group, then this is a choline molecule, and related thing which are means configuration of acetylcholine and all this we will discuss in the acetylcholine mimetic, means cholinomimetic agent. So biosynthesis of acetylcholine. First of all, the synthesis is a very simple. Generally, acetyl-CoA, that is acetyl coenzyme A, that donates the acetyl group. Then choline is generally synthesized in our neuronal cell. They just bind by the utilization of a choline acetyl transferase and forms acetylcholine. And the coenzyme A again reuse for the next session for the synthesis, biosynthesis of acetylcholine. So this is a generalized diagram for biosynthesis and utilization of biosynthesis and release or metabolism of acetylcholine. See, choline plus acetyl-CoA, by the use of one glucose molecule, there is a and use of one acetyl uh, choline acetylase or acetylcholine transferase that forms acetylcholine. Whatever the synthesized acetylcholine molecule, that will transfer to the vesicle, and then whenever the impulse coming, then this vesicle get rupture, and there is a release of acetylcholine molecules into the synaptic cleft, and which will bind to the postganglionic receptor, which are of two types, that is muscarinic receptor and nicotinic receptor. So details about the muscarinic as well as the nicotinic receptor we will see later on, but here I want to make some sites which are responsible for actions of various drugs, generally related to the acetylcholines. Either it may increases or decreases, whatever it may be, they are generally uh, like this. See, this is the first one, which generally acetylcholine synthesis can be blocked by the steryl pyridine derivative, that is a NVP, which is generally act in the synthesis of this choline to acetylcholine. Generally, this will act on the acetyl CoA. Then second site is that uh, uh, the transfer of a biosynthesized acetylcholine molecule into the vesicle, that is generally blocked by the L minus vesamicol. Then third site is there is a release of acetylcholine from vesicle, that is promoted by the bungarotoxin black window, which is a venom uh, come from spider. Then uh, its release is generally blocked by botulinum toxin. Then cytochalasin B, then collagenase pretreatment and magnesium. So these are some activator as well as the blockers of the uh, acetylcholine. Then at the sites of muscarinic and nicotinic side, uh, generally cholinomimetic agents are acting. So for the nicotinic receptor, at least the peripheral nervous system are blocked by the rabies virus, courier hexamethoium, then dihydro erythropyridine. Then there are some different types of agonists are there for the nicotinic receptor, as well as the muscarinic receptor are blocked by the atropine, pyrazine. This drug we have to see later on. Then again, presynaptic muscarinic receptor may be blocked by AFDX, that is a new compound, which is generally block at M2 and which is act as a M2 antagonist. Then atropine, uh, then muscarinic agonist are oxotremorine, which inhibit the evoke of release of acetylcholine by acting on these particular receptors. And last one is a acetylcholinesterase, which is a major site for major site to increase the acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. Means acetylcholinesterase is an enzyme which is responsible for metabolism of acetylcholine. So this acetylcholine, if you want to increase the actions of acetylcholine, you just inhibit this acetylcholinesterase, so that the whatever the release acetylcholine molecules are there, they are not get metabolized and remains in the synaptic cleft for the longer period of time. And uh, So acetylcholinesterase inhibitors are generally they are classified as a reversible, irreversible inhibitors. Generally, phosphates compounds are there. They are irreversibly bind to the acetylcholinesterase. Generally used in the uh, user to kill bacteria, viruses, and physostigmine is generally reversibly inhibit this acetylcholinesterase. So this is a biosynthesis on the chemical basis. Generally, if you want to go for details, then first of all, L-serine get converted into the ethanolamine on the by the use of a serine decarboxylase. Then ethanolamine get converted into the choline. Means this is a route for synthesis of a choline. So ethanolamine get converted into the choline by the use of a choline N-methyl transferase and S-adenosyl methionine that is responsible for a methyl donor. And then this is the basic mechanism which is generally happen into the neuron, that is a conversion of a choline to the acetylcholine by the use of acyl CoA and acetylcholine transferase. So destruction of acetylcholine by acetylcholinesterase and reuptake of a choline. See here at this site, if you can see that uh, if you can see that acetylcholine esterase, this enzyme that is responsible for the acetylcholine conversion of acetylcholine into the acetate ion and choline molecule, which is a starting compounds of the acetylcholine. Then whatever the acetate ion is, whatever the acetylcholine molecule which is a remain, that is again called back by the presynaptic receptor and get enter into the uh, presynaptic neuronal spaces, and therefore again this is a choline transporter. This is a choline transporter. So whenever they see this yellow is nothing but a acetyl group, and this uh, orange color dot is nothing but a uh, choline molecule. So this choline transporter get again call back whatever the metabolize acetylcholine molecule, whatever the choline molecule generally metabolize from the acetylcholine, and there is again that will get reutilized for the further purpose. The next, uh, so I already discussed about it. Next, so see this is the transmission like this. This is a postsynaptic neuron, and after postsynaptic receptor present on the postsynaptic neuronal spaces. So before binding, the conformation of a receptor, and after binding there is a change in the conformation of a receptor, and therefore response passes. So then next is a, so these are all related to the similar condition, that is related to biosynthesis and release of and transformation conduction of impulses. Now there is a next is a cholinergic receptor. So generally cholinergic receptors are both are not identical. Cholinergic receptors uh, are different. Cholinergic receptor are classified into two types: nicotinic and muscarinic, on the basis of two natural products, that is nicotine and muscarine, which are bind uh, selectively to these receptor, and that's why they are called as a nicotinic receptor. Means nicotinic receptor is specific for nicotine, they are selective for nicotine, and muscarinic receptor are selective for muscarine. So on the basis of this they are classified. So here you can see that the structure of a nicotine and muscarine both having the similarity only in this space. So here you can see that here there is a nitrogen and here there is a oxygen, which is a negative side, and here this is a positive side. At this place there is a cationic region of your drug is there. Here again there is a nitrogen, here again there is a nitrogen. So Generally, nicotine activates the cholinergic receptor at a nerve synapses and on the skeletal muscle, and muscarine generally activate the cholinergic receptor on the smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. Keep in mind that nicotinic receptors are generally present in the skeletal muscle. Muscarinic receptors are generally present in the smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. So this you have to keep in mind. The next is a generally acetylcholine is a molecule which is responsible for both of these receptors. So that's why, but it is non-specific. So that's why whatever the actions of these acetylcholine are not so vigorous because they are not selective. Then, so here you can see that nicotine comprises about 3% and dry weight of a tobacco leaf. When inhaled, it rapidly crosses the blood-brain barrier where it activates and act as agonist at all. And the acetylcholine, they are acting on the acetylcholine receptor. And the addiction to nicotine is reported to be one of the hardest addiction to break. You know very well. Already you are aware about it. The next is a uh, muscarine. Muscarine is one of the mushroom type of coming from the one of the mushroom type of plant. This is poisonous in the nature. Actually, nicotine and muscarine both are poison, and therefore they are called as a drug. As you know, a drug is a poison. So the next is a ingestion causes severe nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. These are generally some of the side effects of this muscarine as well as most of the drugs, which are act as an acetylcholine agonist. Also, it causes perspiration and lacrimation, tearing. These are a simple examples. So you can see these examples in the addicted persons. It is nothing bigger deal. So then the antidote is atropine. Means if their actions are severe, then you can use a atropine and acetylcholine antagonist at muscarinic receptor, which is act as an acetylcholine antagonist. So this diagram we already seen. So here the details of some sympathetic nervous system neurotransmitter releases. So see central nervous system, from the central nervous system the preganglionic region came, and after that what are the action they are generally shown by the acetylcholine and other in the combination of acetylcholine as well as other neurotransmitter. See, so this M or alpha, beta, D, these are related to the receptor, and these are the some these are the neurotransmitters. So in the first parasympathetic nervous system, so generally they are related to the cardiac, smooth muscle, glands, nerve terminals. Then sympathetic nervous system, they this is muscarinic receptor which are present in the sweat glands. Then sympathetic nervous system, in that when in the preganglionic region there is a acetylcholine. Generally preganglionic region contains a nicotinic receptor, so that's why nicotinic receptors are generally present in the preganglionic region, and in the postganglionic region the muscarine or other types of receptors are generally present. So here D1, they are related to the dopaminergic receptor. So in the sympathetic nervous system, so here we have a simple actions related to this parasympathetic nervous system. With this we already studied. So next, so this is one of the animation which is related to the actions of some uh, um, you see, if you want to see for if you want to go for anatomy of a neuron, then axonal transport, ion channels, resting membrane potential, action potential, then neurotransmitter release. So action potential, how it is happening. So here you can see that this is I just want to summarize. Actually, you already aware about it, so not want to go in the detail. In the resting state, it is at the negative, means minus 70 millivolts, and when excitatory potential occurs, then at that time the sodium enters and the internal means system of your system, internal system get converted into the positive and external get negative. Then depolarization, this is called as a depolarization. Then again uh, inactivation causes by transferring the sodium ions to the exocyte. This is voltage gated potassium channel. uh, then again repolarization. So as there is an increase in number of potassium ions, the again your barrier will get back to this minus 70 C. So this is related to the action potential. So if you want to fast see, this is very simple presentation related to the action potential. See, this is passes again. So this process continue till the response goes to the particular site. Okay. See, so the impulse passes simultaneously, sodium and potassium ion this transport open up. Now next is a again this is a 1 minute neurotransmitter release. If you want to see in detail, these are the microtubules, uh, neurotransmitter. So this is the ion channel. Then this is the vesicle in which the whatever the neurotransmitter synthesizes that ion will enter. Then again during the rupture, the generally this is related to the rupture of your, so here depolarization occurs, and then this calcium dependent calmodulin, it is also called, this receptor is called as a calmodulin dependent voltage gated ion channel. So whenever the response occur, then there is a depolarization occurs, and during the depolarization whatever the calcium present in extracellular places, that active non-active calcium, inactive calcium, that enter into the cell and activate the internal means calcium ions, and these activated calciums then utilizes to break the means that increases the intraocular intravesicular pressure onto the vesicle, and so that there is a bursting of this vesicle onto the membrane. So this is one of the this see fusion pores, and then after that there is a release of a neurotransmitter. So this is basic mechanism related to the release of a neurotransmitter. So sometimes also if you want to block the actions of any neurotransmitter, then you can use you can act on this calmodulin dependent calcium voltage gated ion channel, so that the calcium does not get enter, and because of that you cannot release the any type of acetylcholine or any type of neurotransmitter. See, uh, a very simple mechanism. Again, it will get reforms, and vesicle get again reappear, again get reforms, again the same process started. So these are related to this. See, this is a release and fusion. Then after that, see, I want to show you. See, if you want to break, if you want to control the action of a neurotransmitter, again there is a one route which is denoted by the green, that, and that is a one of the drug is synaptobrevin, that is used to inhibit the breaking of a vesicle onto the neuronal spaces. So example is a botulinum toxin, tetanus toxin. Okay, so these are the some examples. Again, see here you can block. I already told you. So example is a conotoxin that can block your actions. Means if calcium does not enter, then vesicle does not breaks, and uh, till that time the actions of your neurotransmitter get block. Okay, so see. So this is related to the then again postsynaptic. So this is synapse. These are the receptors. See, you can if it is a voltage gated ion channel, generally we are going to see this. Actually, this is related to our topic. That is, ionotropic means voltage gated ion channel, and this is G protein coupled receptor. So nicotinic and muscarinic receptor. Generally, nicotinic receptor is a voltage gated ion channel receptor. There are four types of receptor from that voltage gated ion channel is the first one, which actions are generally happen in the milliseconds, and therefore this is ionotropic. Then metabotropic is nothing but a G protein coupled receptor. So this receptor is like this. Okay, so we have to just for your knowledge, I want to show you the mechanism behind this. See, ionotropic and metabotropic receptor. This is ionotropic, this is metabotropic. So after binding of a neurotransmitter, this will get open up, and after opening, the particular changes happens. Okay, see here the neurotransmitter bind and this channel is open. Here the neurotransmitter bind to the particular receptor, and voltage gated ion channel get open up. Then this channel get open up. See, so this is basic mechanism. So on the basis of that, whatever the ions present at the outer side get enter, and therefore you will get a means as the response came, this happens, means sodium potassium ions and external side get negative charge, means depolarization. See, now this is a ionotropic receptor. These are the sites for the drug as well as the neurotransmitter. Ligand gated ion channel. So here, if your particular neurotransmitter bind to the any subunit, this is a receptor, and these are the subunits. These five are subunits of this protein. So on this subunit, there is a binding site for the neurotransmitter. So when there is a binding of a neurotransmitter to the subunit, there is a conformational changes happening to the receptor, and there is a, because of a conformational change, there is a opening of a channel. Okay, so next is a hyperpolarization. So see, okay, then activation and inhibition of an ion channel. So this is your G protein coupled receptor. It is also called as a metabotropic receptor. After that, these are the beta adrenergic receptor that respond to the noradrenaline. See, this is a noradrenaline. This is G protein coupled receptor, and because of that, there is a contraction happens. See, so this is basic mechanism behind all the actions of adrenergic. Most of the adrenaline actions are contractile. See, second messenger, and there is opening of a channel. Then okay, this is the diffusion. Okay, so here you can see that this is acetylcholine molecule, and these are the acetylcholine esterases. So that broken down your acetylcholine into the acetate and choline molecule. Then if you want to use acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, then that will bind to this receptor, and whatever the acetylcholine releases that are not get broken down or metabolized by this acetylcholinesterase, and because of that the acetylcholine remain bind to your postsynaptic receptor again and again, and there is a increase in uh, influx of sodium ions, and due to this the cell get paralyzed. Okay, these are the glutamate receptor, so we don't want to study glutamate receptor. So generally uh, this is a dopamine receptor. Okay, so the responses are like this. So now we are moving to the next step, that is a nicotinic and muscarinic receptor. So nicotinic and muscarinic receptor, they having an action similar to this. And see, nicotinic receptor, whatever the blue blocks are there, they are related to the nicotinic action, and green blocks are related to the muscarinic receptor. So so this is the difference, and generally in the most of the papers they are the examiners are asking about the differences between the nicotinic as well as a muscarinic receptor. So just for the sake, I want to discuss here, because if you aware about the actions of a nicotinic as well as a muscarinic receptor, or their places, or their nature, then you can learn the drugs which are acting on this receptor. Otherwise it is not possible. So nicotinic receptor, first difference, nicotinic receptors are a group of cholinergic receptor linked to the ion channel in the cell membrane. Then muscarinic receptor are the group of G protein coupled receptor that phosphorylate the second messenger. Means if you are aware about the receptor, then there are receptor having four types. So one of the type is a voltage gated ion channel. So it means that voltage gated ion channel means on the basis of voltage, on the basis of action potential, your channel get open up. On the basis of voltage, your channel get closer. So on the basis of that, your if the if your channel get open, then the number of uh, cation, anion, or particular uh, entity get enter into the cell, or particular entity from the cell get expel out. So these are the action, these are related to the voltage gated ion channel, which is nothing but one of it's one of the type is a nicotinic receptor. That is an example of a voltage gated ion channel. And G protein coupled receptor means what? G protein coupled receptor means it is a uh, G for guanosine. So G protein coupled receptor means what? Uh, there is a one particular means the channel and G protein are nearby, and this your drug is bind to the G protein, and that will gives the message to the channel to get open up, or that will get gives the message to the internal cell organelle to functions, to get to give to or to proceed for a particular function, or it will activate the second messengers, and these messengers again gives messages to the further organelles in the cell to proceed for the further actions. Okay, so these are the two different types of receptors. And see, nicotinic receptors are two type, N1 and N2, and muscarinic receptor are five types. Generally, nicotinic receptors they are excitatory in the actions, and in the muscarinic receptor, the M1, M2, and M5 they are excitatory, and M3 and M4 are inhibitory. Then N1 receptor are located in the neuromuscular junction, and N2 receptor are located in the brain, then autonomic and parasympathetic nervous system. And generally muscarinic receptor are they are found in the brain, heart, and smooth muscles. Then nicotinic receptors, their receptor, nicotinic receptor, uh, they become an ion channel upon activation, and here they phosphorylates to uh, phosphorylates to give a second message. Then nicotinic receptor is a type of a ligand gated ion channel, and It is also called as a voltage gated ion channel, and it is a G protein coupled receptor. Then this is a mediate fast synaptic transmission of a nerve impulses, and muscarinic receptor mediate a slow metabolic response via second messengers. Means there is a big cascade. Actually, your cancer cells are generally acting, or anti-cancer drugs are generally acting by this route. Means if your cancer is also related to the G protein coupled receptor. So that's why whatever the drugs are related, they are generally acting onto the G protein coupled receptor. Then nicotinic receptor generally respond to the nicotine, and muscarinic receptor respond to the muscarine. Obviously, they have to. Next, the main effect of acetylcholine is see. Now you can again go for basics. Organ, if heart is there, then in the heart there is a M2 receptor is there. As you know very well, see what is that? M1, M2, and M3. Sorry, M1, M2, and M5. They are excitatory. M3 and M4 are inhibitory. So M2, if M2 is present, their action is a excitatory. Okay. Then blood vessel. In the blood vessel there is a M3. Then in the visceral organs, bronchi and glands, M3. Most of the M3 receptors are there. In the eye, M3, skin, M3, then GIT, uterus, M3. So because of this, most of the actions are inhibitory, means their dilation. They're related to the dilation. Okay. See, M3 receptor. Now next is the nicotinic receptor. We directly jump to the, see. So it is a generally the receptor G protein coupled receptor. The G protein coupled receptor, because of that they having a, sorry, this is a nicotinic receptor, voltage gated ion channel. They contain voltage gated ion channel. See, this is a binding site for the receptor. So see, it contains voltage gated ion channel contains a subunits. They contain a 5 subunits, and these 5 subunits are classified as a alpha, beta, gamma, delta, sometimes epsilon. Okay, so sometimes it contains a 2 alpha, then beta, gamma, delta, or 2 alpha, 3 beta. Any type of a combination is there, but there may be a combination. Okay, and most probably the binding site is alpha. Okay, so now on the basis, see, 5 glycoprotein subunits traversing cell membrane. So this is a messenger. Either it may be a messenger or ligand or particular chemical entity responsible for the opening of a channel. So inducer fate mechanism causes getting of ion channel, and there is opening of ion channel. So see, you can see that there is an influx of positive ions after binding. So this is alpha site. So in the nicotinic receptor, there are 2 alpha and then beta, gamma, delta. See, here you can see that there are 2 alpha, then beta, gamma, delta. And this is a transverse view. If you cut it from the center, then you will get a structure like this. This is alpha, alpha, then beta, gamma, delta. So this is again one of the mechanism for the ligand gated nicotinic receptor. So see, here you can see that this is our brain, this is the autonomic nervous system. This is a part of our autonomic nervous system. Neuromuscular junction. This is a peripheral nervous system. So if you take a one part where there is a nicotinic receptor, means you are taking the example of a muscle cell. So in that we are taking a junction of this neuromuscular junction. So neuromuscular junction, these are the nicotinic receptors. Okay, see how there is a release of neurotransmitter happening and how the receptor are generally binds. Okay, so here see, you can see that this is the vesicle which is present in the presynaptic cleft of a neuron, from where the acetylcholine get released, acetylcholine get stored. So uh, these are called as the synaptobrevins. These are they binds, and because of a binding, there is a conformational changes, and because of that, it will get ruptured. So this is a calcium channel. See, if you want to go for details about a nicotinic receptor, then it structure is like this. See, each subunit again get classified into the four types, that is M1, M2, M3, M4. This is not related to the muscarinic receptor, it is subunit. Every subunit, it contains one N binding site, means uh, and C binding site. So N binding site means there is, see, this is a nothing but a protein. So every protein is made up of a chain of amino acid. So because of that, there is a N terminus, and at one end there is a COH group. So on the basis of this, uh, generally binding happens into the N terminus, and COH is not responsible for binding. See, the choline acetylcholine transferase forms acetylcholine that will get enter into the vesicle, and after that, the action potential happens. Then calcium get enters, and there is a rupture of acetylcholine. Now, whatever the acetylcholine molecule release into the synaptic cleft, that will bind to the two alpha sites of the nicotinic receptor, and because of that, there is a muscle contraction happens. So this is related to the nicotinic receptor, actions of a nicotinic receptor. Then we are moving to the muscarinic receptor. So M1, M2, M3, M4, M5. So most probably M4 and M5, they are generally less abundant and present in the lungs and central nervous system. And M1, M2, M3, they are related to the uh, involuntary actions. For example, M1 is generally present in CNS, M2 is in the heart, smooth muscle, J8 in CNS, and M3 generally present in the exocrine gland and smooth muscles. And their actions are generally like this. Muscarinic receptor, generally they having the two types of model generally generated for the muscarinic receptor. So I want to go for this, and afterward we will skip this presentation. Today again we are moving to the classification of this cholinergic. Okay, so muscarinic receptor are generally um, the structure is, we already studied the structure. It contains a G protein couple receptor. It contains two sites, three sites. First is a site 1, site 2, and site 3. These are the two models, this one and this one. But this model fails to explain the quaternary ammonium group, then quaternary nitrogen and terminal hydrogen interaction, and that's why this model fails to explain this, and therefore we are moving to this basic model, which is a trimeric in the nature. It contains the three sites, site 1, site 2, and site 3. This site 1 is related to anionic site. This second site is a that is related to the site for ring oxygen of a muscarine and ester oxygen of acetylcholine, and this site 3 is for OH of a muscarine and C double bond O of a acetylcholine, and this is for responsible for hydrophobic site and van der Waals forces. So here you keep in mind that site 1, site 2, and site 3. Site 1 anionic site, site 2 is for binding of a oxygen as well as a ester group of a acetylcholine, and this third site is responsible for OH of a muscarine and C double bond of a acetylcholine. Now see here, you can see that muscarinic receptor. So this is structure of muscarine. So from the muscarine, the ammonium nitrogen binds at the first position, and this oxygen binds to the third position, and this OH is at the hydrophobic side. See, this is a hydrophobic side. Then acetylcholine bind only two sides, so that's why it is not a selective. So acetylcholine having a this side is the first, and this second side, that is a stereotic oxygen, and this is a muscarinic receptor, alpha, beta, and gamma. These are the subunits of a G protein coupled receptor. So first, GDP bind to the so see, do not get confused between this uh, uh, G protein coupled receptor. This is a G protein coupled receptor. See, ligand and receptor G protein binds to the G protein, and then it activates the second messenger. Either second messengers are generally common, that is adenylate cyclase and phospholipase C. So adenylate cyclase causes uh, uh, activation of a PK and then enzyme carrier protein, and phospholipase C is related to the inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol. Again, it will increases the calcium influx, then PKC, and they are contractile releases contractile proteins and ion channels. They opening the ion channels. So this is related. See, this is simple representation. See, this is a messenger, this is a receptor, the messenger bind to the receptor, then there is an inducer fit happens. This is a alpha, beta, and gamma subunit. Then after uh, uh, first before the messenger binding, this protein is closed. Then after binding of a messenger to the G protein coupled receptor, there is a conformational change happen, and there is a opening of this side. So at this site, then G protein bound. This is a ligand, this is a receptor, and this is a G protein. So after binding of a G protein, this G protein get convert your breaks your alpha beta gamma subunit, like alpha and beta gamma subunit, means beta gamma in common and alpha subunit. So after that, see, this subunit binds to the enzyme site and this active site, and there is a opening of a intracellular reactions. So these are related to the G protein coupled receptor. Now this is a classification of a cholinergic drug that we have to see today, and then we will start from the cholinergic agonist from the tomorrow. So cholinergic agonist, there are four types of drugs. Generally, this classification is only included from taken from the Inamdar, because in that book only this classification is given. Other books does not contain any type of a classification like this. So and which is belongs to our syllabus. So cholinergic agonists are directly acting sympathomimetics are generally acetylcholine, carbocholine, methanchol, methacholine. These are the example: nicotine analog, muscarine analog, aerocholine analog, oxytocin analog. So these are the cholinergic agonist, means they are increasing the actions of acetylcholine. Okay. Now others are antagonist. Acetylcholine, then again, this is also increasing the actions of acetylcholine. Acetylcholinesterase is inhibitor. Most of the drugs related to the brain actions, means increasing the brain balance, or most of the drugs which are generally acting on Alzheimer, Parkinson's, brain related diseases, they are generally acting on this acetylcholinesterase, because brain damage is related to the decrease in concentration of acetylcholine, most probably in the older ages. So that's why acetylcholine is a acetylcholinesterase inhibitors are generally used, that will increase the concentration of acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. So they are again classified into the five types: reversible inhibitor, carbamate derivative, organophosphate derivatives, then reversible non-covalent inhibitors, and miscellaneous. So again, their classification you have to remind this. Okay. Then muscarinic agonist, antagonist. that is a solanaceous. This is classified into three types. That is a solanaceous alkaloid, then atropine agent, and synthetic agent. Okay, and on the basis of a chemical nature of a particular drug, means whatever the particular moiety present in the drug, they are classified. This has have to be mandatory for the in the sense of a medicinal chemistry. If you want to do the classification, means see, in the pharmacology and medicinal chemistry both having similar classification, but in the if you are having a point of view, pharmacological point of view, then you have to see the molecule in the uh, on the basis of a particular receptor, means and at the particular receptor they are binding, and on that basis you have to classify it. But if you are medicinal chemist, or in the sense of a medicinal chemistry point of view, you have to see the compound on the basis of their nature, means on the basis of their functional groups which are present in the structure. So that's why on the basis of this class, on the basis of this functional groups, they are classified, and this is very important for the in the sense of a medicinal chemistry.